Second. Okay. Just give me the high sign, Corey. Okay, good morning and welcome to the regular board meeting for Tuolumne Utilities District for Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. Director Balin, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public forum. We'd like to welcome the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board related to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This section is for comments on items not listed on the agenda. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. While no action or discussion may be undertaken by the board on topics presented in this section, board members are listening carefully to these comments and appreciate your input. Is there anybody who'd like to address the board? Okay, seeing none. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, consent calendar, item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of June 11th, 2024.
Okay, is there anyone who would like to discuss that consent calendar, those minutes, or if not, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Is there any comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Melissa?
Okay, regular business, item number 2. Consider approval of the updated travel expense policy and updated board of directors policy manual.
Okay, Director Balin and I I appointed Director Balin the lead on this for the ad hoc committee that addressed this issue. So I'll turn this over to Director Balin.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I think we met a few weeks ago. Yeah, try to get this guy up here. All right. It was a great meeting. There was President Kearns, myself, Carolyn, and Melissa, and we all had been prepared and brought in our comments on it, and we had a really good discussion, robust discussion. I appreciate everybody being there and bringing their good sense. The structure was really great. In other words, we didn't have to fish around and try to figure out what the older policy said versus our changed language. So that really facilitated. Thank you, Melissa. And then when we were kind of working on language, Carolyn, you guys were really great. You just said, well, we'll just take it back and we'll suggest some language, and that didn't take up a lot of time on that. So I just want to make it clear, though, that when we dug in, we realized that there was sort of this weird crossover with these policies. So we were sort of wanting to stick in a logical way, but it sort of, some of the issues went over to these other policies. And I think that correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like that got a little bit cleared up as well. So that was just slightly awkward. Like, well, we've got this policy, and now is this just for the staff or is this the board too? Oh yeah, okay. And but I want to also say that we didn't go through the whole board policy with everything. It was only the travel portion of that update. So let's say if we go in and update at another meeting compensation, that is another update. So I just want to make that clear. We did not go through the whole thing. We were just focusing on clarifying the language of the travel policy. So good work, you guys. And I recommend that we approve this.
Okay. Director Ringen.
I want to thank everyone that put their time and effort into this. This is something that was, in my opinion, long overdue. It's always been sort of a gray area. It really wasn't supposed to be like that, but it just turned out to be like that. And I think the last Aqua conference really showed that it had a few holes in it or need a little bit of help. So at any rate, I personally appreciate all the time and effort everybody put into it, because now we've got something that's clear, concise, and workable, and on we go. Thank you.
Okay. Director Boatright, do you have any comments?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll just add that I agree with Director Banlin and Director Ringen on their comments. We just needed to tighten it up a little bit. And I believe that's what we did here. And I too would hope that the rest of the board feels the same way. So is there any comment from the general public? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the updated travel expense policy.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the changes to the travel policy. Any further comment?
Because we did make changes to that as well.
Pardon me?
We also made changes to the board of directors policy manual.
Okay, so,
We made both.
Sorry about
Okay.
that.
That's okay.
all right. So do you need an amended motion or, okay.
Just to, yeah.
All right, let me try again.
Does Jesse want to comment on this also? Did Jesse want to comment or did I miss? No.
Jesse, do you have anything to say on this item?
Yes, I was waiting. Thank you very much, President Kearns and Director Banlin and Kearns and Boatright. As Melissa pointed out, we did make some changes to the board, the policy manual this morning, but when Director Ringen made a motion just for the travel policy, I thought we were going to discuss the director's board policy manual separately. But if you're going to do both at the same time, yes, I would like to just point out that there were a couple of items after I reviewed the agenda this morning. There were a couple of outdated statutes in your board policy. And I worked with Melissa this morning to change those statute references to the correct section in the water code. It's very, the difference between the two code sections is very simple. They read the same, but the water code section is specific to county water districts, which is what TUD is organized under. So unless there are any questions, I certainly have no objections to a motion that that approves both the travel policy and the director's policy, including the, if we want to call it the errata made this morning on the three references to the water code. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that change that you asked us to make was regarding section 30507 of the California Water Code, correct?
You got it. You
Okay.
got it.
Okay, good.
Okay, do you want me to try again?
Sure.
Let's see if I can get it right.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion for us to approve the updated travel expense policy and updated board of directors policy.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the changes mentioned and in the agenda with the additional section of the California Water Code. Any comment? Public comment? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay, Melissa, next item.
Okay, item number 3, discussion regarding the board of directors compensation.
Okay, this one's mine. This is among many that I've been wanting to bring to the board. And this one before now, but there never seems to be a good time to bring up some things. And this is just one of those things. I know it's uncomfortable, but the fact of the matter is this board's compensation was set in July 1st in 1992 and hasn't budged since then. And obviously the world has changed dramatically in those 31 years, 2 years, however many it's been, a bunch. So I think last October I had Melissa Melissa said, hey, I want to bring this to the board's attention at some point, but maybe she could do some research for me. And she did. And in her research, she had stumbled upon Calaveras counties had just completed a study. I know it says 2024 here, but I think it was really 2023. So that was enough information for me that I thought I could share with you, the board, to study and have an understanding of how some of the comparison agencies, like agencies, are, how their board is compensated, how their districts are made up between, number of connections, number of staff, number of meetings and things like that. So it was a pretty comprehensive evaluation that CCWD had done, and now you've had some time to review that. So again, like I said, the world has changed drastically since 1992, in particular the last several years, as far as money goes and our affordability. So I know I've talked to Jesse about this probably late last year, and then more recently with Carolyn as she's been here, because I know there's some protocols. We can't just willy-nilly increase the board compensation. There's limits to what we can do, and there's processes by which we must go through. So today's point of today is just to highlight the information that you have, bring it to the board's attention, allow for some question and answering with Jesse and Carolyn and myself here going forward, and then look for some direction down the road as far as what this board would like to do. So with that, I'll just turn it over to the board, unless Jesse or Carolyn have some things they'd like to add. Nope.
Okay. Director Ringen has a comment.
Okay. First of all, GM Perkins, I appreciate you bringing this up. I think that it is long overdue. The stipend that we get is almost an insult, but that's beside the point. And I'm going to go off topic here just for a minute. I'm not trying to, I don't want to belabor this, but I think that what we should be also, not today, because it's not on the agenda, but I think it's pretty disgraceful that we have not finished, even though the evaluation's done, we have not finished the GM's compensation situation. Here it is, June, almost July. That's supposed to be done back in late 23. And now we're in June, end of June of 24. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I think we've got something that we got some unfinished business that needs to get taken care of. And I think we all have a little egg on our face over that. So that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Any other comment? Any other board member?
Well, a comment.
Director Balin?
Yeah, thank you, Don. I think this is really long overdue, and whenever I'm down at Aqua, just talking to folks and going, oh, how much do you get? Oh, 255, and those are the big districts down south. I understand Mesa, et cetera, they can afford it. They've even paid for some of Forest Hill, the past GM, to go to a meeting. I mean, they're very generous. They really see it as a partnership in our watershed. But nonetheless, I went, well, why aren't you tethered by this code that we seem to be tethered by? And so I'm glad that Jesse cleaned up this language, because it was misleading. It made it sound like we couldn't do anything. We were limited. Other boards had 10 meetings that they were compensated for. And I thought, well, how are they getting around this thing? So I don't, in hindsight, don't appreciate sort of feeling slightly misled by the language in our policy and just said, this is, don't even go here. So I'm glad that we're looking at it again. And I think it's really long overdue. So I know today we're just voting on whether we agree or not that this needs to be revisited in a serious way, and deciding what the change may be or adjustment. So I'll just leave it at that. But so yeah, I appreciate it. I don't think this is asking for the moon or stars.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I know we are a disadvantaged and poor district. We don't have a lot of money. And we've just asked for a significant rate increase from the ratepayers. But you five are some of the most important people in Tuolumne County for the future of all of us. And I don't think it's asking too much to make sure that you're fairly compensated for your work. You obviously, you all put in a lot of time in here, not just at board meetings, but after board meetings and at other events. So I didn't coin this phrase, maybe Director Jacobs did, but it is important to invest in our infrastructure, but it's equally as important to invest in our human infrastructure, and you're a part of our human infrastructure. So that's I know these things are challenging, but I'm not afraid of challenges. I don't, this district just isn't. We face challenges every day, and this is just another one. So.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, and I would, advise the board of directors to not to undervalue, their place here at TUD. Looking at this, it hasn't really been 31 years since that has been changed.
Yes.
And, like I said, I got a comparison to, what that is and, all that. And in fact, I know I did 31 years with Tuolumne Utilities District and seen multiple cost of livings and, raises as well. This board is a valuable component to TUD and should be fairly compensated. In light of this year in particular as well, too, come November, 3 board positions are up for election, and certainly a fair compensation for time invested in meetings and prep work for meetings, a increase in the pay will draw, qualified people who do not have, the word kind of eludes me right now, but they don't have side interests. They have a strong interest in community and making sure that this district, survives into the future and is guided in the right direction.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I agree. I think we need to take this to the next step. I know the general public and our customers probably see us, those who are watching see us twice a month come here, but there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, we're on the phone a lot. We're meeting with committees. We're talking with the general manager. All of us do. There's an awful lot that goes into this job, way more than I ever expected when I got on here. I know that. And I would imagine most of you or all of you feel the same way. It's a heavy responsibility, and it is that we do have a value here, and I think that it's time we take another look at this. Okay, so no vote needed.
No, it sounds like I have a consensus
You had a
to
consensus.
to go through the process. I know Director Ringen has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe after Director Ringen, I'll make sure that Jesse doesn't want to chime in on sort of the bounds of what we could do compared to what we should do, or something like, however you might want to phrase that. If you don't, that's fine, but maybe Director Ringen can
Go ahead,
go
Director
first.
Reagan.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize. I'm going to take us off subject once again, but only briefly.
Mhm.
And I'm very happy that our lawyers here, Mr. Barton, in going through the agenda item, it was great to see the policy manual for the board. And one of the things that has really been disturbing me for some time, but it came up recently that really turned the red light flashing is the fact that there's no real control or guidance or anything else over what board members say or promote or anything like that at talks to groups or anything like that. And we're going into the election cycle right now. And I think this is really important that there be something in the policy manual that before a board member is going to make a talk to a group or something like that, that it's brought before the board president and definitely the GM and maybe the entire board, so that it is the board's direction, in the entire board's direction, rather than just that person's direction. We recently almost got sold down the river through some votes by a member and so on a item that was totally against what this board and staff is for. So I'm not going to say anything more, but I think we need to have an agenda item brought up on this to have a in-depth discussion. And it will have to be when Jesse Barton is available, which would mean the second meeting of the month. Unfortunately, that won't be until the earliest would be, next month. But I feel this is very, very important. And whatever thing that the board decides on with staff's help and Mr. Barton's help, I think that there should be some teeth in whatever we come up with, so that the line doesn't get crossed, that it is the full board's and the staff's direction that's going to be talked about at a meeting or something like that. So
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So are you talking about, I'm just trying to clarify. So if one of us were asked to go to a Rotary Club, for instance, or some other organization, that's what you're talking about?
exactly.
Okay.
I know that I've been approached a couple of different times for different organizations, and I'll write up what I feel is what I want to discuss, but then I submit it to the GM to make sure that it fits in with the where TUD's trying to go, what we're actually trying to do, and I'm not crossing the line. But I think it should really be even further, that it should come back to I think the board should probably have at least the knowledge that it's going on, and maybe a say too.
Prior to the meeting.
Prior to the conversation, right, the meeting. I can remember several years back, two of us board members were absolutely aghast. 3 board members and the GM at that time went to a local organization. God only knows what they said at that meeting. And the 2 board members were left on the outside and didn't know anything about it until after it happened. And who knows what was said. That just can't be. That just can't be. So I'll leave it at that. And maybe Mr. Barton has something to say on it. I don't know, but I'd like to see an agenda item brought up that covers this in depth, that includes staff as well as the board, and of course, Mr. Barton.
You have any comments, Jesse?
Director Kearns, President Kearns, Director Ringen. No, I will wait till that is put on the agenda, and then I'd be happy to talk about it. Yes.
I made a note, Jeff, we can talk about how we're going to agendize and what we're going to agendize.
Yeah, I did too. Good. Okay.
From this day until August 1st, calendar's booked. But if Director Ringen wants it in there sooner for certain reasons, let me know, can talk. But we'll talk offline, get this agendized for you.
Okay. All right. Director Boatright?
Just a little bit of guidance, and probably a better time for discussion of how that agenda item would be. But it would seem that you're venturing into the, freedoms of free speech, where a director may be intertwining with a group, but that group is still considered our constituents that put us into office. It just, there's a lot of gray area without a lot, very much room for black and white. Now, this may stem from another situation that, a board member has a directed as part of a committee, taking action would seem to be a little bit different and, without having specific, notes on, where you're coming from, Director Ringen. Yeah, that's just a speculation on my part. But I mean, to me, this just seems like a really slippery slope. Trying to tell a director what they can and cannot say to an outside group, be it, meeting with Kiwanis or Farm Bureau or, they are considered constituents for, elected officials. So
I can clear that up really easily. If you are going,
We're venturing.
Yeah.
We're way off.
and that's what I didn't want to do. So,
Let's-
yeah.
Okay.
That way you get to have this conversation. Agenda.
Right.
Okay. All right. But that's a good point, Director Boatright. I share some of those concerns.
Jesse, you did have your hand up, right?
I did, yes. No, thank you, Don. I was going to suggest the same thing, bringing up something for an agenda item is a good is always appreciated, but discussion of that, we should wait for it to actually get on the agenda where we can have a prepared and robust discussion with the public present on that item. So, but if it's okay with you and the board, I would like to bring us back to the compensation policy.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, two observations. One is, Don, you indicated earlier that just board general consensus that the board would like to actually review this formally at a future meeting. Yes, that's fine. We don't need a board motion or approval for this. If you just want to give staff direction, then staff and I will work in the background to make sure this is on a future agenda after the proper public notice procedure is followed. And then the other item is, although the board just approved its board policy manual, if there is a change, we'll have to change that board policy manual as well. So that item should follow the there will have to be two agenda items. The first will be whether, if the board is going to increase its compensation at a particular meeting. And then the second item right after that will be to amend the board policy manual to match that monetary number if that monetary number is changed. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Director Boatright.
Yeah, I'd like to, have us add to that agenda item, a annual review of, this as well, so that this comes before the board on an annual basis, considering this compensation change. So at the same time that it would be a change to the board policy manual. It would be, put in there as part of that to come back before, so that it does not drag for another 31 years before the board actually decides to review and
Okay.
adjust compensation.
All right.
Noted.
Okay, good. Thank you, Director Boatright. Any other comments? Okay, so based on what I've heard here, sounds like we're all in agreement to take this to the next level and send it back to staff. See
Thank
what
you.
you come back with. All right. Thank you, Don. Next item.
Okay, item number 4, consider approving a purchase order agreement with MicroAge for purchase of server hardware and software.
Mr. Corey.
Very welcome out there. I was the first. Hello, Corey Adams, System Administrator, TUD. Like to consider authorizing general manager to approve, or sorry, again, I'm new on this. I'd like to ask the board to consider.
A lot better is up to you.
Yeah. Consider approving a purchase order agreement with MicroAge, who is a reseller, for purchase of server and hardware software replacement. This was included in the current CIP project list. What this is gonna do is our current server infrastructure was purchased back in 2018, and the industry standard is every 5 to 7 years to replace hardware. That way we stay up not only with current hardware speed and infrastructure, but then also vendors who support software for security risk and issues. So what this will do is we'll completely replace our server infrastructure here on site and then also build a second one at our regional center. The total of the project is $241,903.03. This will cover hardware and software warranty support with the vendor for 5 years. So this will take us up to the industry standard of 5 years. And at that time, we could go ahead and reevaluate whether we want to keep the hardware for another year or two and just extend the warranty, or if it's time to replace. The reason why we are replacing is, again, ours is outdated, and the cost to just keep up the warranty and support alone without replacing, it didn't make sense financially to continue that rather than just putting that money into replacing it completely. So if there's any questions from the board, like I said, I would like to kind of keep it vague, but anything more detailed, I'm more than happy to answer off camera.
Okay, I got a couple questions real quick, Director Boatright. So, so you mentioned if we do nothing, if we choose to do nothing and continue with our current equipment that we have, what's the monetary, what's that going to cost us going into the future?
Currently, at the rate we're looking at, just to renew for this coming year would be $50,000 to renew hardware and software support with their current vendor, compared to $240,000 to replace everything, add new hardware, and that takes us for 5 years. So it's $50,000 for one or $240 for 5.
Okay. All right. So that was your comment about being fiscally responsible, and that does make sense. Okay. So, so this equipment's been online since 2018.
Correct.
And, you want to replace servers and operating system, I imagine?
This would be complete operating system for the server infrastructure.
Okay.
Correct. And then backup and everything that's entailed.
Right, which will keep us at the cutting edge for cybersecurity, which is my number one thing.
Correct.
And then also everyday usage for all the users here and paying customers' bills or to receive customers' bills and whatnot.
Correct.
This is everything.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Director Boatright.
Thank you. Corey, will the new hardware and software aid in human deficiencies of clicking on the wrong item and allowing a virus or intruder into the network?
It's a mixture. Each vendor has their own kind of key things that they put into their software. With this, there is a cybersecurity and cyber hacking kind of component where it watches, but it's not 100%. We have a bunch of other things that are incorporated in our system that's not just with this project that we implement. So our antivirus, our firewall, everything else that we incorporate that assists with that. So this does aid, but it's not 100%. If that makes sense.
Would this enhance our capabilities against ransomware as far as totally locking us out of our, cyber infrastructure?
Yes, it could.
And takes us for the next 5 years. It's the equivalent of 5-year payment to stay with what we've got. Thank you.
Director Balin.
Yeah, so to do an upgrade is $50K. That's what I,
No, just to continue what we currently have.
okay,
And all we would be doing is renewing the warranty on it. So
okay,
if something happens, what we currently have, and just to be able to use the software alone is
okay.
50,000.
So, and then the new stuff is what, 245?
About 241,000.
241,
About
okay.
242, but that completely replaces everything. Again, also it incorporates a new system down in regional also. So we essentially get two systems.
So in my pea brain, I'm doing some math here. It seems like the benefit is, since it's going to be roughly 241 divided by, I'm going to round up to 250 because that's the way I work, to, 5 years, good for 5 years. Okay, so that's about the same, except the benefit is that we're getting a whole new deal that can deal with the whole new times.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's correct. I think you came to the same conclusion I did, sounds like. And I know in my own business, this is right on track with what we've done in the past. 6 to 7 years is about it.
Mhm.
And for the reasons you just said, once your warranty expires, it's very expensive to extend that warranty, which Corey just said. And also it leaves you a little more, not a little, quite a bit more vulnerable to the things that Director Boatright was asking about with the older software, with the older hardware. And it's imperative that whether you're in private industry or public industry, you got to keep up with it. I mean, I hear it at the Aqua JPIA every meeting twice a year, how cybersecurity is the number one threat to any business or public entity out there today. And if you don't stay on top of it, you're just leaving that door wide open. It's never 100%. You were asking some good questions. You can never make it 100%, correct, Corey? I mean, you just can't get there.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to do, or you have to do what you need to do to bring that percentage as high as possible to keep them out. To keep a wolf by the door, keep them out of the door. So.
Looking at that, you bring up a point, our cybersecurity JPIA, will this at least, keep our cybersecurity insurance status quo, or?
I don't believe this would affect our insurance the way that our cybersecurity monthly training does. The antivirus that we use, the multi-factor login, the other factors that we've incorporated, I think that makes a bigger impact on that than just the server hardware that we're implementing.
I can add a little bit to that too. That I think from what I've seen at those JPI meetings is if an entity doesn't keep up with their hardware and their software, I think it appears to me that they run the risk of losing that cybersecurity policy. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, so, sort of. I would like to see it better. Okay, we've totally got a, brand new, more robust infrastructure, fighting against, cybercrime. I would think our insurance should at least stay status quo versus, I'd actually like to see it go down, but as an incentive to stay current with our, update and all of that. Corey, is there any resell or the reuse value to our existing hardware?
We might be able to, depending on what the vendor is willing to pay for it. If they're willing to take it, you get to a certain age where it's kind of like selling back a car. I mean, what are you going to really get out of it? Is it worth, going through the trouble of boxing it up, shipping it out? Or they give you something that's worth? So I've not gotten into that yet with this particular vendor, but it's something we could definitely look at. There are some pieces we might be able to reuse in a different fashion. Understanding that it's not under warranty anymore, what we currently have. So we would be taking our chances where if something were to happen to it, then we either be out of pocket trying to repair it, or we just kind of let it go. But there might be some things we could reutilize what we currently have for.
Sounds better than a total throwaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments? Okay, I'll open it up to public. Any comments? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I'll make the motion. I move that we approve a purchase order agreement with Micro Age for the purchase of server software, hardware, and that we authorize the general manager to execute the purchase order.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the item as it appears on the agenda. Any further comment? Public comment? Board comment? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you, Corey. Okay, that's the end of our regular business. So Melissa, what's next?
Staff reports.
Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go. I've got a few things. First, I think Director Balin has requested this in some form or fashion be brought up to the board's attention. Although we do a lot of things behind the scenes, it's always good to keep the board updated. And this is I'm referring to capacity fees. So annually, Antonio goes through a capacity fee increase procedure, which he does at the end of the fiscal year for the beginning of the new fiscal year. Well, in this year, I'll just kind of read a little bit of his email to all of us. Our water rules and regulations and wastewater ordinance provide for an annual adjustment to our capacity charges / connection fees based on a 3-year running average of the Engineering News of Record 20 Cities Construction Cost Index. This year's increase was 3.5%. Please note that the calculated increase was 5.22%. However, per our rules and regulations, the fee increase is capped at 3.5. We will be notifying Jamestown Sanitary District, Twain Harte CSD, Sonora Water Company, Tuolumne Economic Development Authority, and the septic haulers of increases.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
Well, I listen. Sometimes it takes a couple times. Underway currently, annually, we do this, but just as an FYI, our tank inspections are underway. Matt and Trevor plan on dive cleaning and inspecting 9 tanks, and we hope so far I think we've been at about a week and we haven't had any bad news, so that's good news. And lastly, I thought it fitting to talk a little bit about the Arrow fire that happened over there in Highway 4 in Copperopolis. At CCWD, when I learned that it was going to impact Salt Lake and Copperopolis, I know that CCWD has a lot of infrastructure there. They have I can't even tell you, it may be as many as 12 different sewer lift stations over there to get that water up out of Salt Lake. And so with the power being down, I know how that stressful that is for them. So Abby and I and Eric reached out to CCWD just to let them know we're here. We have standby generators, we have flush trucks, and just let us know. So they're very appreciative of us reaching out. Eric and their operations manager Damon worked together behind the scenes. We were at the ready, but in the end, they needed our services. Anyway, that's the end of my report.
Good. I got a question regarding the tank inspections. Refresh my memory. How many tanks do we have online? Roughly, ballpark.
Under 60.
Under 60. Okay, good.
When I started, we had 88, or by the time we got all the way, by 2007 to 88. So when I say under 60, I'm thinking
Yeah,
that's,
well, I think when I got on this board, we were right around 80. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
a good thing. It's a very good
so
thing.
we're under 60.
So, okay, so 9 tanks are being inspected. So roughly about 10 tanks a year we're doing.
Roughly we 16 to 20. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Well, that's
There's a
good.
standard, the AWW standard,
Yeah.
every 3 to 5 years, you should dive, clean and inspect your tanks.
Right.
And so we're still doing them every 5 years.
Okay.
We're on about a third cycle now after all these years.
Okay, good. So we're under 60 now. That's good. Good
Yeah.
deal. Thank
Yeah,
you.
You're welcome.
Director Balin.
Is there something important tomorrow that's happening?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was thinking that for Abby.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Your turn, Abby. Ta-da.
Yes, we are having a very important ceremony tomorrow, our ribbon cutting ceremony at the new regional wastewater treatment facility on Southgate. And so Emily's worked super hard on making this event highly successful. We have a lot of our partners, both locally and across the river. CCWD, I think, has about 6 folks coming because they were interested in it. our partners in the community, the city, the county, our media partners, all of our project partners, Kiewit, PACE, USDA, big one, because they showed us the money on that one. So yes, we're looking forward to seeing you all there. The event starts at 9 a.m. Feel free to get there a little bit early. We'll have some coffee and some little light snacks for you before we get going. The ceremony is about an hour long. We'll have multiple speakers to talk about the projects and the different aspects of it. And the weather's supposed to be a little bit cooler, so we ordered that up for you. So we're looking forward to that and looking forward to see you all there.
Okay. Thank you, Abby.
And Jennifer will be there.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
Yes. Jennifer Batt will be there, Eric Johnson, the engineer at PACE, partners at Kiewit, project managers, and Don will be speaking, and Jeff has a few words, and USDA has a representative that's going to be there and speaking as well. And so it'll be a great event. I had just one more staff report, and that is just to acknowledge two of our newer employees, Jeremy Myers and Paul Behe, who both obtained their distribution grade 1 certification within about 4 months of their hire date, which is pretty good for the way the state runs the tests and everything. So I just want to congratulate them on that. And that's the end of my report. Thank
That's
you.
good news. Thanks. Okay, Carolyn?
Yes, I was just going to give a brief update, just to give a little bit of information about the finance department and what we're doing right about this time of year. It's a very busy time of year. This is the last week of our fiscal year 24. So we're going to be closing out the books in July. We're going through our interim audit right now this very week. Then we will have our final audit towards the end of August. So lots going on. And then the second thing that we'll be working on extensively is that this is the second year of our rate increase that goes into effect on July 1st. So we'll be busy updating all of our software so that all of that goes into effect. And it will be sent out on customer bills beginning for their usage that starts in July 1st. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Any questions for Carolyn? Okay. Emily, you have anything to add? No? Okay, all right. Okay, we'll bring it back to directors then. Director Balin, do you have anything to report?
I just wanted to add that I'd like to put the GM compensation. I don't know if it's a closed session, but I want to just follow up, make sure that we have that as an agendized item between now and December. Looks like we have about 10 meetings left, so if this is a special meeting, I think that might be a good idea. So just wanted to follow up, make sure that that gets agendized, and if Jesse wants to hang out with us, that's great. Okay, thank you, Abby, for going into good detail about tomorrow. I think that's a real important project to celebrate. Okay, and I have. Let's see, I forget if I talked about, I went without board permission, no, to give a kids talk on the ditch, and up in for the Chinese Camp Academy. Yeah, did I speak on that?
Chinese
No.
camp? I don't think you
Anybody
did.
remember? Well, if I didn't, good. Nobody remembers, and I'll go over it again. So, but I really appreciate, and I do keep folks saying, hey, I'm gonna go do this. You know, I try to announce that. But this one was really fun. This was the Chinese Camp Academy. And so they were, you know, science oriented, and we met up on the Columbia Canal. And then, you know, really what I do is just stop. We all stop in the shade and I tell a story, you know, about the history of the ditch and the miners, and then we move along, you know, because they're antsy, you know, they want to keep moving, but they're thinking about it. So I got a big stack of thank yous, letters on that. And but lo and behold, when we were coming off Oxbow, here's a Forest Service truck drafting, they're doing a control burn up slope. A really good job along the ditch system, and they get a huge long hose lay drafting right out of the canal. So I sent John a couple of photos because that's exactly what we are envisioning. That's exactly how they're keeping fire danger down in that neighborhood using raw water. You know, you didn't see the hose lay to the nearest hydrant, wherever that was. And so that was so photo documented that, but I was really happy that I know they have done this in the past, but just to know that we really do appreciate that kind of, use of our water to hydrate that soil, hydrate all that dead fuel, to keep it a damp burn. And so that was really a cool thing to see too. So, that, perhaps we don't have to, just ask permission for those kinds of things in the future, but at least do a heads up. Here's where I'm going. And, I'm just coming as a water storyteller,
Yeah.
you know, not getting political with the kids for sure.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to read.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Director Balin. Yeah, I know with the more heightened awareness that we are providing the public on the use of raw water for all sorts of things, but fire suppression and things it's out there in the public now. I feel like I remember Kurt telling me prior to you sending me that picture that they had approached Kurt, our water master, raw water superintendent, that they were planning to do this. So yeah, it's good to see that information is getting out there. The
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Director Boatright, you have anything to report?
Nope, nothing for good of the order.
And I don't either, and I know Director Ringen requested to go last, so you're on, Ron.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody will humor me. I have a short story to share with you all. I'd like to introduce Chucky Cubic Foot and one story about him. Chucky's been around since the beginning of time, and as an old guy, he's hard to control, unpredictable, and a bit cantankerous. Like us, he is full of water, but unlike us, he is all water and can present himself in different forms. Even though Chucky is cranky, unpredictable, and hard to control, he is very valuable, and we need him for most everything we do. A big part of TUD's job is to obtain, gather, direct, and clean up Chucky so that he can adequately perform services that we need from him, which TUD has to charge a fee to do so to the TUD ratepayers. However, when Chucky gets unruly and out of control, he can cause a lot of damage and cost a bunch of money and effort to bring him back in line. Recently, a ratepayer made me aware of Chucky getting out of control, causing TUD to have to send the ratepayer an exceptionally large bill. The large bill to the ratepayer was because Chucky had gone through all the TUD prep, cleaning, and delivery processes only to disappear somewhere at the ratepayer's property. The ratepayer knew the bill was in error because they never used that much of Chucky before. The ratepayer called the TUD office and later me, which started an expensive dynamo effect attempting to find errant Chucky. The process involved gobs of valuable time and effort of numerous TUD office staff, the water distribution crew members, along with expensive trips to the ratepayer's property looking for Chucky, the finance director and her staff, the general manager and board director, all to try and find that rascal Chucky and also try to placate a very upset ratepayer. Everyone loses big time when Chucky decides to go rogue. That is the reason for my relating this story to you. TUD must embrace and support the installation of electronic remote read water meters at all TUD water hookup locations as soon as possible that will allow for monthly rather than bi-monthly meter readings, which will then allow TUD to convert to the monthly billing. In doing so, any shenanigans by old Chucky will be caught much earlier and will bring Chucky back in the line more promptly and save TUD and all the ratepayers a lot of money and valuable TUD employee time, as well as conserving that expensive, hard to come by Chucky. Will this board provide the direction and support to the GM and staff to make this very important project happen now, ASAP?
have a question on that.
Director Bailey?
Okay, so Chucky is water. I got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cubic foot.
Okay. Sorry, I'm hard. So, but I figured it out. Okay. So are you requesting, I mean, we're the board. We
That's
can
right.
request that we want to look at the cost of monthly billing. Are you asking for this to be agendized?
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's a multi-pronged thing. In order to go to monthly, we have to put in remote read meters, because right now it takes gobs of time for the meter readers to go out and physically find the meter, uncover it. Half the time it's covered with dirt from moles and things like that. Read the meter and then bring it back in and run it through the process to get the bill done. Takes 2 months. Well, if we have remote read meters, it gets done in just a couple of days. The billing can be done every month, number one. But number two is if there's a leak, it's found almost immediately because it'll show up as a abnormal usage at that location. And it'll keep us from wasting that valuable water and get it to the ratepayers' attention sooner so that it can get repaired. Because almost always the leak is when it shows at the meter, the leak's on their side and they're responsible for it.
So I have a suggestion. Why don't we give board direction to be prepared so that, staff board direction, so that we can look at how many remote reads, what is the situation? We 50% there, we 25, and then the board can make it, have a discussion about, do we want to make this a priority? And so that we can lock it in terms of maybe a schedule of remote reads in anticipation of going to monthly billing. I mean, I would like that discussion. I think it'd be great.
That is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, so that could,
Exactly.
and then staff will be prepared with where the status of this stuff so that we can have a discussion.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know that we're in the middle of converting our meters over. In fact, we're over 50% now, aren't we? About 60, I think.
We're
last I
about
heard.
66, 67%.
Okay, even higher then. So we're getting there. But for those reasons that Director Ringen brought up, it will allow us to find those leaks quicker. And we won't have to send out as large of bills in some cases to our customers. So, I mean, it's a win-win. It really
Well,
is.
And think about the amount of money that's wasted, the valuable time of all the staff members, employees that get involved in just one lousy leak.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't believe this one that I was just involved in. I started counting all the people that were involved.
Mhm.
They've got important jobs to do.
Mhm.
And that takes them off into left field. That's non-productive.
Mhm.
That's got to end.
Yeah, I agree. Director Boatright?
It would be an interesting study topic. I don't know exactly the year that we started going to electronic read meters. Anybody have a guess?
10. I thought from the time I got here, but I learned later, Eric Hall seems to be, he was a distribution superintendent, I think 2010. 2010, I believe.
2010, so we were 14 years into it. 2/3 of the way there. So we've got, gonna guess maybe another 7 to go to actually do it. Our original electronic read meters are first generation style that will have battery issues cropping up as well as outdated electronic infrastructure. This is more of an ongoing evolution to, as to kind of continue to do that. But one of the big components that's gonna get brought up is switching from bi-monthly to monthly is gonna be fall to Carolyn. And that's gonna be a substantial increase in billing cost.
Why don't we discuss that as an agendized item? Because there's a lot of issues involved here too. You know, in terms of people have been asking for gallons. Can you just tell me how many gallons I use rather than cubic feet? So there's a lot here that we can, but we needed to get it agendized, and you're in favor of that, it sounds like.
Yeah, it has a discussion, but I mean, ultimately in that agenda item, I would like to see the cost of what it would, difference between monthly and bi-monthly billing, as well as increasing the speed at which we are replacing outdated meters with new electronic meters. I just want the board to make sure that they understand the component. We can do anything we want and we can get it done in a week's time. It's just how much do we want to pay to get it done in a week's time versus.
Those are all
Yeah.
good points that we need to chase down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
Thank you for your story though, Mr. Director Ringen. And you know, that just kind of highlights the way, you know, different things. TUD has had Chucky get out of control in some of its pipes where meters are not involved, and it's gone for years of where's it going and how's it getting out? Yeah.
Yeah, Chucky got loose at my place too.
Chucky's loose downtown Sonora right now. I'll find him one of these years. I promise you I will find him.
Is
Put him
that,
back in his box.
is that the one for Rotary Park?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
All right.
I know.
So staff has their marching orders on this and
Vice President Ring, I appreciate your leadership and your determination. This too, along with board compensation, is on my long list of things to bring to this board. And we're going to do it in due time. This burden is a heavy load on Carolyn, our finance director, and her department, and a heavy burden on Matt Nolte and in the distribution. We will agendize this, but just as far as expectation, we can have maybe a conversation in a little bit, but for our staff to really get to work, Carolyn needs to get beyond the closing of the year, beyond the audit, and then get her staff fully employed and trained. But certainly, maybe in February, we can have a real robust conversation with all the details that you're all asking for by I would think by February. But we're going to work on it between now and then. I may also ask Director President Kearns if we can put an ad hoc committee to kind of help guide us. So we have somebody kind of report on a regular basis of this information gathered between now and then.
okay. All right, great. We can do that. I'll talk to you about that offline. Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any last parting words? If not, we will adjourn. Thank you very much for being here.